Every morning, about an hour before I sit down to work, this shows up. A full breakdown of everything I need to know. What happened in my inbox overnight, what I sent yesterday that still needs a response, what's urgent, what's on my calendar, my active projects with next steps, and my favorite part, a list of suggestions. Things I forgot about, things I don't even think to do. Each one with a checkbox and a reason why it matters, fresh every single morning. I didn't write any of this, Claude did, automatically and on a schedule. My name's Dave. I run a motion design studio called Nexus Motion, and this is the single most useful thing I've built with AI so far. In this video, I'm going to show you the exact prompt that makes this work, break down why every section is there, and show you how to set it up as a scheduled task that runs before you wake up. I'm also going to show you how to expand beyond just email, because once you start pulling from your project files, your to-do lists, and even tools like Notion, the brief goes from useful to indispensable. So let's build it. Now, in my previous videos, you saw that we set up some connectors. So for this, you want to first make sure that you have your Gmail at least connected, and then maybe your Google Calendar and your Google Drive inside your connectors here. So if you haven't done that, go watch my video on how to set that up, or just walk through it yourself. You might be able to just do it on your own without having to have a walkthrough. So what we're going to do here is set up our first scheduled task. So right here on my left side panel, I've got scheduled. You can see I don't have anything in here yet. Now, it's important that you click this keep awake button just to, if you're using Cowork, just to make sure it keeps your computer awake. If you want these scheduled tasks to run overnight, say, or something. If not, you can just do it the next time that you've got it open. You can run these manually, and I'll show you how to do that as well. So I'm going to click here on new task, and I'm going to say set up manually, because I kind of have a prompt already that I'd like to put in here, and I'm going to walk you through it. So I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to call this my daily briefing. And I can get a description if I want. I'm just going to call it daily briefing. Now down here, I'm going to tell it to work in a project. I'm going to tell this one to use my demo vault, and I'm going to give it permission. Now this could be your folder for your particular set of projects or your business or whatever you're working on. I'm just selecting that one because this is the demo vault that I've been using along with Obsidian. The next thing we'll do down here is we'll look at frequency. I'm going to tell this to do this daily at 8 a.m. Now, sometimes it might be better to do it a little bit before that, because if you do it super early in the morning, it apparently uses less credits. I don't know about that, but I have it run at 8 a.m. because when I sit down at my desk at 9, I've got everything processed and ready to go. So I'm going to paste in this prompt right here, and it's a rather long prompt. So I'm going to pull it up on the screen, and we're going to walk through it step by step. So we're going to start with data sources in order. The first thing that the prompt does is tell Claude what to read and in what order. Inbox first, then sent mail, then calendar. The order matters because the inbox gives Claude the raw context, and then the sent mail lets it cross-reference what you've already handled. So if you flip the order, Claude doesn't have the inbox context when it reads your replies, if that makes sense. So why it matters is because within reading the sent mail, the brief will flag threads like needs a reply when you already replied. This was the single biggest problem with the early version of this brief for me. Then you have the Gmail pagination rule, and it says critical here in parentheses. This one took me a while to figure out, because when Claude searches your Gmail, it doesn't get all the results at once. It gets a page of results, like maybe 20 or 30 threads, and then a token to fetch the next page. So if you don't tell it to keep going until there are no more pages, it stops after page 1. And if you got 60 emails in the last in the last 48 hours, you just missed half of them. So a busy day can generate 50 plus threads in a 48-hour window, and missing half your email makes the brief pretty much useless. Now we've got the full thread fetch rule, which we also have critical here in parentheses. Now here's something most people don't realize about Gmail search results. The preview snippet you get back is usually from the first few messages in the thread and not the most recent one. So if a client replied last night, but the thread started 2 weeks ago, the search results might show you the original message, but not the reply. So the prompt tells Claude to pull the full thread for anything that matters, like client projects, active deals, partnerships. And that way it's reading the latest message and not just the preview. So without this, the brief cites outdated information, and it might say a client hasn't responded when they actually responded last night, or it might think that you hadn't responded to something. Then we have the sent mail cross-reference, speaking of which. This is the most important rule in the entire prompt. Before Claude flags anything as unanswered or needs a reply, it checks whether that you were the last person that responded. And if you already replied, it doesn't flag it. Now, this sounds obvious, but without this rule, your brief is just a guilt trip, and it's just telling you that you haven't responded to things that you already responded to. And that kind of makes you stop trusting it. If the brief gives you false flags even once, you really stop reading it, or you'll get tired of dealing with it. And the cross-reference is what makes the need a reply section reliable. All right, then we have this output format right here, and this is how it's going to output it. For me, it's going to go to an MD file in Obsidian, but it could just put this inside the active thread for that scheduled task for the day, and you could read it that way if you want. The output format is broken into 7 sections, and each one exists for a specific reason. You've got the executive summary, which is 1 or 2 sentences. You glance at it, maybe on your phone or something before you even sit down, maybe just something quick in the morning. It comes up with today's plan, which is calendar events first, like your locked commitments and your action items, 4 to 6 bullets max. And if it's longer than that, it's a to-do list, not a plan. Then you have the urgent section, act today, things that need to happen right away. Context plus a link to the Gmail thread is in there so that you can click straight to it if you need to. And then you have needs a reply, which is only threads where you receive the last message and you haven't responded. So it's verified against the sent email. Then you've got active projects here, which are things in motion but waiting on someone else, or if it's unclear what the next move is. And this prevents what's happening with that project anxiety. So it kind of like verifies for you. Already in your system is a noise filter. It's like payment receipts, newsletters, tracking notifications, renewals, things like that. You want to see them acknowledge, but not necessarily did I wonder like if you missed something, but they're not action items per se. And then you've got suggestions, which are 3 to 5 items with checkboxes, and each one has a name and a why comment. The name makes it referenceable. The why makes it actionable. You're not staring at a vague task. You're actually reading a specific recommendation with a reason. Now for tone rules, this also has the critical in parentheses. The tone rules are the part nobody thinks about, but they make or break the whole thing because the brief should be forward-looking and factual. What is happening? What action makes sense? It should not be a guilt trip for you about things that you didn't get to yesterday. No, like, hey, this has been pushed off to the next day for like 10 days. Feel bad about yourself. You still haven't replied to this. It's assuming that you're informed and not forgetful, and you might have handled it outside of the system, or something else might have come up in the meantime and you didn't get to it. So you might have decided that it's not a priority in that time, and the brief doesn't know, and it shouldn't judge. If the brief makes you feel bad every morning, you're going to stop reading it. So the tone rules are about sustainability. So we've got all of this in here inside of this scheduled task ready to go, and I'm going to save it out. And now we have a daily briefing that's ready to go every day at 8 a.m. Now, if I want to run this manually, all I have to do is click right here and say run now. Now, if you want to set up your own scheduled task and you don't have all of that information like I have there, you can instead go up to new task and say create with Claude, give it an idea of what you want to do. And it's really good at setting up a task that is based on those things that you wrote in that prompt. So it's kind of just one more step that's in there. So by pasting this particular prompt, we were able to just build it direct. And we're going to go ahead and not right click on it. We're going to click on the 3 buttons here, and we're going to say run now. And we're going to see what happens. So after the morning brief runs, you can click inside of it and you can see all the different times it ran. And if you click on one of those, it basically opens up a thread where you can see everything that it did and the results, usually linking to that file that has your morning brief in it. Now, if you have Obsidian connected, it's going to show up into your Obsidian automatically. That's where I read mine every day. But you're going to want to go here into your history and click on it and then it's going to bring up that particular day, what happened, suggestions and everything, and then a link to the actual MD file that it made that had your entire brief listed. So I'm going to open up Obsidian to show you this because it has saved to my Obsidian vault, and I have my morning brief right here, and we're going to walk through it a little bit. This did everything that it was supposed to do. It gave me kind of that quick brief on what today is going to look like, which is awesome. Then I've got today's plan. It's based this on all of my emails, what I need to do with my clients, what is urgent, what has to act today, what needs the reply, active projects going on, nice and organized here. What's already in your system. You can see like a Frame.io notification, Adobe Cloud renewal, stuff that's like, okay, it's there, but it's probably not something that we need to even worry about. And then the suggestions from this brief. Now look at this one right here. Ask Rachel to nudge Nina internally on the animated logo sign off instead of emailing Nina directly. Well, why did it say that, right? Because Nina is hands off during production, and day 4 with no response through normal channels means an internal nudge from Rachel will land better than another Dave email. And it figures all that on its own based on conversations we've had before, or maybe things that we have in my Obsidian vault. And speaking of which, the version I just showed you pulls from Gmail and from Calendar, which is a good starting point, and it works on its own, but you can add more sources depending on what you want the brief to know about. In other videos, we've talked about setting up briefs and plugging in client project briefs and budgets and everything else, and transcripts and all of that into the Obsidian vault. And if you set that up for my first video, you can add your vault as context for this scheduled task. So now the brief doesn't just know your email, it knows your project files, it knows your client notes, it knows your budgets, it knows your to-do lists, and the suggestions get way smarter because Claude can connect a client email to an actual project timeline and say, hey, this deadline's coming up and you haven't started the storyboard yet. If your task management lives in Notion, you can plug that into it too. There's all sorts of sources you could bring in as MCPs, connectors, and all of the things that Claude can access on its own and say, hey, I want you to take this and also take this into consideration when you run my morning brief. And the brief pulls your current sprint items, it flags things that's overdue, and it can go into your Google Drive docs, your weekly plans, strategy playbooks, and the more context the brief has, the fuller the picture is. The point is, you start with Gmail, get that working. You add your sources as you need them and as you go and as you're refining it. You don't have to build the perfect version of this on day 1. The prompt is a living document. So you tweak it, you add sections, you remove things that don't work. I've been iterating mine for months, and it keeps getting better every time I iterate it. So again, this prompt isn't set in stone. The version I'm running today is not the version I started with. I've added sections, removed things, and I've reworded rules. And every time the brief does something that I don't like, I update the prompt and tell it why I didn't like it. And every morning it gets a little bit better, so start with this version and just make it yours. So we built a scheduled task that runs every morning before you start working. It scans your Gmail inbox, cross-references your sent mail so it doesn't flag things you already replied to, checks your calendar, and builds a complete morning brief. The prompt is doing the heavy lifting, and every section is there for a reason. The pagination rule makes sure it reads all your email and not just the first page. The sent mail cross-reference prevents false need a reply flags. The full thread fetch makes sure that it reads the most recent messages, not just the preview snippets. And the tone rules keep it forward-looking instead of guilt-tripping you about things that you didn't get to yesterday. And the suggestions section is what really sold me on this. Claude surfaces things that I completely forgot about. It connects dots between emails and projects that I wouldn't have caught on my own, and each suggestion has a name and a reason, so you're not just staring at a vague list of tasks. But here's the thing. The version I showed you today pulls from Gmail and Calendar. That's a great starting point, but you can add more. Connect your Obsidian vault, and suddenly the brief cross-references your email against your project files, your budgets, your client to-dos. Plug in Notion and it pulls your current sprint items. The more context it has, the smarter the suggestions get. And the prompt itself is a living document. You can tweak it. You can add sections. You'll remove things that didn't work for you. I've been iterating on mine for months, and it really keeps getting better. If you haven't set up the Obsidian Vault yet, go watch my first video. And if you haven't set up the transcription workflow, watch video number 4, Everything Stacks. In the next video, I'm going to show you how I built a full health dashboard in Claude, meals, workouts, medication tracking, mood check-ins, macros, all in one place. It's the most personal thing that I've built with AI so far. So hit subscribe so that you don't miss it, and I'll see you in the next one. Okay, bye.